Ryan Worcestershire.
Hello, and welcome to the show. Today we will be introducing a new history segment where we will be inviting people from the past 40 years to shed some insight on the past. An ancient artifact from the 60s. Give it up for Derek Smith.
Thank you for having me here.
So Derek, tell us, what effect did television have on the 60s?
The use of the television was pivotal in electing John F. Kennedy in the 1960 presidential election. It also brought the fear of the Cuban Missile Crisis straight to our homes. When President JFK was shot, I was on lunch break eating a sandwich. I was so shocked that once I received a call from my wife who was watching TV that President JFK had been shot, I spat out the sandwich and called my friends to spread the news. It was at this moment that I realized the face of politics would undertake a great change. Following his assassination, my support favored Lyndon B. Johnson. His Great Society programs such as Medicare, Medicaid, education, and immigration reform seemed appropriate for the time period in America.
Inside before anyone knew it. But none of the raiders lived to tell of their exploit. By 8 o'clock, 5 hours after they first broke in, almost all of them
I thought we were winning.
civilian clothes they'd been
What about civil rights?
I have a dream.
Seeing the peaceful demonstrations of the African Americans really changed my view on civil rights. It definitely persuaded me to help their movement and to support John F. Kennedy's civil rights bill. However, his assassination and Robert Kennedy's assassination shocked me, and it made me understand the gravity of the rest of history. Tell me about the culture of the 60s. My favorite television show was Batman. It gave me hope that there was always a hero. The film To Kill a Mockingbird was very controversial, however, I still enjoyed it. Another major event was Neil Armstrong's first steps on the moon.
That's one small step for man,
It gave me a lot of pride in my nation.
one giant leap for mankind. And now, from the 70s, Ryan Matza! Please take a seat. Thanks for having me. So, Ryan, tell us a little about the Watergate scandal.
The Watergate scandal made me not trust the government, and when Ford pardoned Nixon, it made me not trust Ford either.
Some people supported Carter greatly. How did you feel about Carter as a president?
I initially supported Carter because of the energy crisis and stagflation under Ford. However, I ran into problems with Carter when I was an athlete.
And here we have Ryan Matza, Olympic athlete. What do you think about the Olympic boycott?
I think that Carter's taking the wrong approach, that he's just making us all suffer, all the Olympic athletes, and there's probably a better way to do this through peace negotiations.
Tell us a bit about the culture of the 70s, please.
Well, my favorite movie was The Godfather.
That I cannot do.
I can do anything you ask.
We have known each other for many years, but this is the first time you come to me with counsel for help. I can't remember the last time you invited me over for a cup of coffee.
And my favorite TV show was All in the Family, because it was honestly one of the first shows to openly discuss controversial issues like Vietnam, racism, and women's rights.
Those were the days, and you knew when you were there. Dance for girls and men, women. 'Cause this is love.
Welcome from the 80s, Darren Sham. Please take a seat.
Thanks for having me.
So Darren, could you talk a little bit about the politics in the 80s?
Reagan's economic policies were very effective in improving the economy. This also contributed to his popularity during the 1980s. This explained why the Iran-Contra scandal didn't change the public's opinion of his presidency. In terms of the FBI, it seemed great in theory. However, there are a lot of things that seemed impractical. I didn't feel our technological capabilities at the time were sufficient in creating this amazing defensive system. Still, I supported measures to defend the nation against communistic threats. Adding to my skepticism was the explosion of the Challenger. I began to question if manned spaceflights were worth it, since the explosion showed how dangerous the spaceflights could be. It was a very tragic loss, and I didn't want it to happen again.
We've heard a lot about the culture in the 60s and 70s. What about the 80s?
My favorite television show was Wheel of Fortune because it was a good way to pass the time. It also had Vanna White, who's a nice addition to the show. It improved my vocab very big. Okay. My favorite film was
Whoa, Star Wars!
Now, for a blast from the near past. Welcome, the youngest one here, Nigel Mellon. Come take a seat. So what's the deal with your sign?
I just can't get over the election 2000. Al Gore should have won.
So, could you tell us more about this election?
The ballots were really confusing, so I didn't know who I was voting for. Even though I thought I was voting for Al Gore, I was really voting for Bush. This made me question the Electoral College and whether we need to reform it or not.
It's hanging!
The 2000s are interesting and all, but what really brought the century in was the end of the Cold War. Could you please shed some light?
Mr.
Hasselhoff.
Tear down this wall. Tear it down. Reagan smash.
After the Soviet Union collapsed, I felt like the world became united under America and it felt like things were at peace. When the Berlin Wall was taken down, it ended separation and we began to rebuild both East Germany and the rest of the world.
What do you think about Clinton?
That scandal. Do you still like this guy?
He kind of bothers me, but he didn't really do anything illegal. And he still helped the economy, and he's a new Democrat, so he's alright.
You, come here.
Me?
Yes.
And although he was a New Democrat, he still did some things I didn't really like.
You can't be serious.
I'm sorry, you cannot keep your job any longer.
Why not?
We are moving all our jobs to Mexico because of the NAFTA bill. It is much cheaper there. That is all.
Tune in next week!
Done!